Hello and welcome to the National Veteran Small Business Coalition's virtual training series. Vik Singh from Vik Singh CPA LLC is back with us for session 2. And we are going to be talking about preparing for the incurred cost submissions, otherwise known, it looks like, Vik, as the ICS. There must be an acronym for everything, right?
There's ICS is, it's ICP, ICE. There's various different acronyms for incurred cost submission, ICP, incurred cost proposal. So I use it ICS because, it's easy to read and it makes sense to me.
Okay. I'm going to turn this over to you, Vik. I'm looking forward to learning some more accounting today. So
100%. So, Vik Singh is really, focused on GovCons, more on accounting, compliance, and advisory. All these series are more around compliance, more than accounting. I'll dive right into it.
okay, that sounds great.
Thanks everyone. Mary, thank you for having me back. I'm happy to be back and talking about incurred cost submission. What is ICS? What does it represent, right? End of the day, I think in my provisional billing rate, I talked about a little bit about tax returns. You want to when you're filing your government, ICS is no different. ICS basically, incurred cost, and now you have to submit it. Whatever incurred cost you incurred, you have to submit it to the government. And what it's really looking for is you had submitted your provisional billing rate, telling the government it's going to cost X, and you billed according to that number, provisional billing rate. Now this is your actual cost. You're taking those two reports and reconciling against each other. Either you're underbilled or overbilled, and in simple terms, right? End of the day, the goal with incurred cost submission is, which is required annually, for a calendar year, December 31st, your incurred cost submission due is on June 30th. Due dates for ICS, again, if you're on calendar year December 31st, due on June 30th, could a contractor ever be late on their incurred cost submission? Again, sure, they can be, but I think it's important to communicate. Communication is the key. Again, you want to talk to your contracting officer, let them know why it's late and when they can turn it in. Like, when can they turn it in? I mean, DCA is busy, so they're not just waiting on your incurred cost submission. They have a million other, other incurred cost submission they're looking at. So they can wait. But if there is something that's on their alert on your organization, they may want to have it immediately. And per FAR clause 52216 7D, you have to meet that deadline of 6 months, within 6 months of the fiscal year end. Otherwise you're running the risk of stopping your payments, right? Because your payments are being processed through the government system, wide area workflow, because that's where you're going in and submitting your invoices. They have the right to stop that for any reason they don't feel like it's justifiable for you to submit your incurred cost submission on time.
And so you have, after the fiscal year close, you have at the close, you have 6 months to file your report. Okay. And the government looks at the fiscal year close as December 31st.
So the clients have the option to select their own fiscal year.
Oh, okay, that's good. Okay.
Yeah. Many of my clients like to have a calendar year. Some of my clients like to operate under government's fiscal year, which is October 1st to September 30th. So either way, it's, if if the contractor is running on government's fiscal year, then the incurred cost submission is due by March, so September, June, April, May, June, so, and within the 6 months of the requirement.
Okay, cool, great.
Yep. DCA uses ICS. What is the purpose of it, right? The focus is really on FAR Part 31. End of the day, what DCA is really looking for is, can the contractor explain the allocation of the cost? Can the contractor explain the reasonableness of the cost? Is it allocable? Is it allowable? Are there any unallowable costs within the incurred cost? Because the contract between the government and the contractor is on cost plus, but what type of cost is are the contractors buying a fancy car, expensive car, and putting it into these rates? That is not acceptable. Is the contractor taking their staff out once a week and having a very lavish dinner out there and spending a lot of money on alcohol? That is not allowable. So, there's certain costs, Mary, that are explicitly unallowable. And that's one area where you could be hit with not only, hey, you got to disallow all this cost, but also with the penalties, because you have to follow some certain rules. Now, there may be legit cost on the books that is a pure business expense, but the government may come back and say, hey, yeah, it's a legit business cost, but it does not belong on my contract because we never talked about it. It's not in your provisional billing rates. So you kind of have to have justifications for everything that goes into your books.
And so they need to make sure that business owners need to make sure that they're reading the FAR clauses of what is an acceptable and non-acceptable expense.
100%. All that is covered within FAR Part 31.
Okay. That's the magic number, everyone.
And most importantly, read the contract itself. And most of this stuff is listed there. It's basically the contract. It should now, hey, contractor, we're following FAR Part 31, therefore comply with those regulations.
Yep. Cool.
Now, there was an executive order signed off by President Trump sometime in, I think, April 2025, Executive Order 14275, which is, basically the idea of this executive order is to restoring common sense into federal regulation, like a federal acquisition regulation. To kind of streamline the regulation, how the contractors are doing business with the government, but it doesn't touch on Part 31. So those rules still remain the same, which means the expenses have to make business sense.
Right.
Okay.
Got it.
Within incurred cost submission, Mary, there's schedules. There are probably like 12 or 13 total tabs that the contractor has to complete. And I won't spend a lot of time on going through each, but the most important ones are in here are Schedule I and Schedule H. Schedule I is basically from the day the contract was awarded, the funding, the ceiling value, the type of contract, and the cost it incurred every year from the day the contract was awarded. And the government wants to track every cost that was incurred, and it has to be within FAR Part 31, and how much was it billed, right? So it's a cumulative schedule, meaning it's not by calendar year, but okay, if the contract was awarded on April 29, 2026, then the government likes to see, okay, from April 29, 2026 and December 31st, 2026. Okay, this is all my cumulative numbers as of December 31st, 2026. What happened in 27? What happened in 28? And so forth. And sometime contractor, if it was awarded April 29, 2026, government may come back on April 28, 2027 and say, hey, they want to do a quick closeout. They want to see where everything stands. So not only now you have to deal with a contract option year, but you also have to deal with your operating calendar year or fiscal year. So you have to maintain this set of record in both way, how government wants to see it and how you're able to present it. Okay. And Schedule H is by year, right? Schedule H is basically, okay, if I was awarded on April 29th, then DCA wants to see it from April 29th to December 31st. And those numbers are then tied to Schedule I, cumulative. Okay. Schedule A, B, C, D, those are basically your indirect costs. When I talked about fringe, G&A, and overhead, that's what those are.
Okay. Okay.
When we're dealing with incurred cost submissions, what is important in here? So, when I was talking in my PBR, commercial accounting and GovCon accounting.
Yep.
In commercial accounting, we're mostly dealing with chart of accounts, right? We're dealing with general ledger. Hey, this is my office expense. This is my cost of goods sold. This is my, operating expense and so forth. What we're trying to do within Schedule H or GovCon accounting is making sure that each of your costs, i.e. cost of goods sold, not only is it presented on the financial statements saying cost of goods sold, but then does it have one-to-many relationship? So cost of goods sold, how many projects are we talking about? Right.
I'm with you, and I'm looking at this slide too, and I'm seeing the importance of making sure that the company systems are synced in a way that it's beneficial for the CEO with regards to understanding the state of the business, but then also has the flexibility to be able to report out to the government the reporting needs too. So it's very in my mind. I'm percolating a lot.
Within the incurred cost submission, there's a schedule called Schedule N. N is the so within Schedule N, the top representative of the contracting company has to sign off on it, saying, hey, within the rules and regulation, with the law, that all the costs that they're certifying are within the federal acquisition regulation. So it's not like, we're just taking the data from one system and submitting to DCA. You actually have to certify and say, hey, I certify this, and whoever that person is, that's who the government is coming down to and asking those questions.
So if I hire you, Vik, would you be answering all those questions, or is it really somebody within the business, in the corporation itself, that is responsible? I mean, if you have an accountant prepare the books, is the accountant walking with you hand in hand to DCAA to answer questions, or is it the business owner needs to be cognizant of what's going on and sign off on what's being submitted?
So DCA, very good question, by the way. So I don't think if any small business is hiring a outsourced accounting firm, um, should be signing off on Schedule N. I think the person who should be signing off on Schedule N is the owners of the company and or representative of the company. And that includes either CEO, CFO, or COO. And the top of the line here is CFO. They're the one, if they don't have a CFO, they're one-man show, two-man show, most likely the chances are they don't have to deal with incurred cost submission. Okay. You know, I think the incurred cost submission really kind of kicks in when they're going through larger opportunities, you know. But I think this is a great information for small business owner to know where they're headed.
Right. I agree with you 100% on that. You need to be aware of, of the regulations, of the requirements, going into these types of contracts. Yeah. Okay. Let's keep going.
Preparing a successful incurred cost submission, I think it's a lot of time I see a contractor who's on a calendar year, trying to do the incurred cost submission on the month of May or June because it's due on June 30th. My recommendation to them is, hey, don't wait. There's certain schedules within the incurred cost submission that could happen throughout the year. For example, Schedule L is basically taking your payroll data or your labor data and comparing it with the payroll report 941. So those items are quarterly items and you have the data. So then why wait until right before the due date? So there's certain things, Mary, like, the new business owners or anybody who's touching the incurred cost submission or have the responsibility of submitting this incurred cost submission could be doing certain things throughout the year versus waiting for the end of the year.
And that's a good practice. That's a good practice to have regardless if you're doing this or not. You shouldn't be waiting, until the end of the year to look at your financial standings. You need to be looking at things monthly and definite and at the very least quarterly, right? So you have an idea of what's going on.
I tell all my clients that look at your cash every day.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
All right. Look at your AP on a weekly basis. All right. Look at your payroll, on your payroll schedule. If your payroll is due 1st to the 15th, your payroll due is on the 18th, you have to look at the timesheet. So look at your timesheets and the frequency of when it's being processed. Don't just process it. Look at it, understand it, comprehend it. Like, why, if there's funded hours of X amount, then why is this employee charging more than funded hours? Because, so depending on which data set within the system you're looking at, it could be daily, it could be weekly, it could be monthly, depends.
Okay.
Now, coming back to payroll data, I think when it comes to incurred cost submission, then on quarterly basis, I would say, hey, let's get it done because you need two set of reports, 941. They don't come out monthly, they come out quarterly. So then quarterly, take the data and reconcile it and make sure it makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah. Common mistakes that are probably found on incurred cost submission, when the incurred cost submission goes to DCAA, the first thing they look at it, is it even done correctly? They're not even going to question any cost. They're just looking at it. Do all the schedules ties to each other? Because they're all linked to each other.
Okay.
That's the first thing they're looking at. And you want to make sure all the schedules, required schedules, are there. There are supplemental schedules. If you could provide the government beforehand, that's a great. If you can't, that's fine. Have them worked after you submit the incurred cost submission. But most importantly, when when the DCA is receiving these incurred cost submission, before they even say, hey, I'm going to put this in my queue to review them, they're going to look at it. Does it even look right? And, that step is called adequate, right? We received your completed incurred cost submission, and you're going to receive that notification from them. So you want to make sure, you understand there is a model within the DCA website that you could download and complete. I find it very complicated, so I have my own model. But you want to make sure all the schedules are completed. You want to make sure you have all the supporting documents, supporting data, each schedule tying to each other, and make sure it makes sense to you, and make sure it makes sense to someone who reviewed it. Don't just do it yourself. Have a second set of eyes, and then send it to the DCA. Sorry, you had a question?
No,
Okay. Key takeaway, I think end of the day, incurred cost submission, you may or you may not be required to submit this. I wish, even if you're not required to submit this, is a practice that everyone should follow. Why? DCA doesn't need it, but I think it's a great key performance indicator where you want to see, even if your PBRs are not required or your incurred cost submission not required, it's good product to have in your organization to see, hey, here's my budget, here's my incurred cost, how does it look? Not only kind of prepares you for an opportunity when that arises, but you have a better understanding how your system is working.
and that would, I don't know how I want to phrase this, that it just shows the stout-heartedness of the financial system or the financial processes. And by financial, I'm including the accounting system and the finance system within the business to have these protocols in place. I want to say kind of like an accounting, would it be accounting certification, or it would be kind of a gold star, as so to speak, when saying I have a compliant accounting system to meet certain federal government regulations, even if it's not, even if I don't have to do it, but I am doing it, it's kind of giving me that gold star standard. Does that make sense, Vik?
It does. The way I kind of look at this thing, Mary, is that we have to look at ourselves first, right? Can I justify myself before I ask someone else to come and say, hey, can you validate this? End of the day, when I talk about provisional billing rate, when I talk about incurred cost submission, the only way to get there is to make sure you're following GAAP, you're following accrual accounting, you're following procedures and internal controls, and all that is these two products are a reflection of your practice. So if you're doing these two items, I think it kind of answers your question. It's like, if you're doing these two items, the other items, when it comes to approved accounting system, internal controls, because you're following those, this is happening.
I'm with you. I get it. Yep.
Okay. Well, this is it for Incurred Submission series, Mary. The next that I have on my list is internal controls, and I think that'll be a pretty fun one to talk about.
It will be a fun one to talk about. And so with this one, everyone, session 2 is a wrap, and we look forward to seeing you in session 3. It's coming on up. So take care, everyone. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.